This video might save 58 lives next week.
Let's save your life today. Not long term, today. By specifically finding out what's most likely to kill you next week so you can actually avoid it. First, let's assume that 3 million people will watch this video and that you're all among our typical viewers. You're between the ages of 15 and 35 and you're living in Western countries. We based this video on statistics specifically for your demographic and our own estimates. They're not perfect, but roughly correct. Don't worry, we might also save your life if you're older or live somewhere else. Okay, now let's gather all 3 million of you in 40 packed football stadiums. Look around. Most of you are teens and young adults. So much potential. Unfortunately, by the end of next week, 58 of you watching right now will not be alive anymore.
Wow. And this was posted 5 days ago. Dude, that is crazy to think statistically. I mean, it's not proven. Like, theoretically, yeah, nobody could die. Or more people could die. I think about that with my like, just following in general. How many people have watched me, like, consistently that have died? Hundreds. Like, people like that watch Markiplier. Dude, there's probably 100,000 people that watch Markiplier or watched Markiplier that are dead. So out of the 3 million people that watch this video, 3.6 million people tune into this video, 50 of them died.
3,000 of you will sadly have passed in a year.
What?
3,000 of you will sadly have passed in a year. That's 1 in 1,000. Or not. Today, we will save your, yes, your life by looking at the avoidable ways you might die. We'll not cover long-term things like diseases because we want to prevent your death next week. Your life consists of millions of micro-decisions, and some of you are on a path that will end soon. Can we guide you down a different path? Humans are incredibly bad at judging the real risks of life. Bad things happen to people all the time because...
Well, isn't that why men actually statistically have a lower lifespan? Not because of biological differences. I mean, maybe some, but also because men generally do more stupid shit that gets them killed. Also, like smoking and shit. Like, I smoke. Brooke doesn't smoke. Stuff like that.
Because there are so many of us. And since the news focuses so much on freak accidents, we have a completely distorted picture of what actually poses a danger to us. For example, the chance any of you are going to die in a terror attack is below 0.0002%. There are super risky activities that are clearly insanely dangerous, like wingsuit flying. If all 3 million of you were to practice this sport, about 285 of you would die just next week. Then there are things that
From doing it one time?
If you don't want this kind of risk in your life, well, don't do these things. It turns out what's most likely to kill you next week are things that feel safe, that you do all the time and are routine, things you may even be really good at. This is what we'll prevent. By far the most dangerous thing you're currently doing is driving. 8 of you will die in a car crash just next week.
What? Out of 3 million people, 8 die in a car crash?
416 of you.
And that's every week.
Over the next year.
Wow.
Mostly because most of you are not aware what driving really is. You're zooming through the world in a metal torpedo at the speed of a cheetah or faster, in an average car that weighs 1.5 tons at roughly 60 kilometers an hour or 40 miles an hour.
More, dude. The average person in the US is driving like 60 miles per hour.
You have the mechanical energy of a piano dropped from the top of the Statue of Liberty. If you crash, this energy is released into your car and, more importantly, your body. 30% of deadly car accidents are caused by speeding, mostly because you overestimate yourself. But that will kill 2 of you next week.
I will say that when I'm driving, I'm sometimes thinking in my head, depending on the speed that I'm going, if I were to run into a tree right now, would I die? And I feel like when I'm going 30, I'm fine, you know? Like, I feel I'm looking past at how quick things are going by me, and I'm like, if I hit a tree right now, I would say I'm good. I'm not even saying I don't even think I would really be that injured. But like 40, I might have to, 45, I might have to go to the hospital. 50, 60, 60, I'm likely gonna either be seriously injured or dead. 70, 80, 90, if I hit something, I die on impact, right?
It's very straightforward. If you
I crashed going 90, flipped, and was completely fine. Yes, because you flipped and kept moving. You hit something that moved. Or you crashed and then hit something that didn't move, but you kept moving, right? You were able to slow down. That's good. When you crash and you're able to slow down, great. Versus you hitting a thick-ass oak tree and just going thud, right? And just boom, stop. If you hit something, it clips, and then you tumble, the actual force of that impact is less than you just going wham right into a fucking tree. They always say, bro, my dad used to tell me this. He said if you're ever in a situation where you're either hitting a tree or a car, hit a car. Because that motherfucker might move. And if you hit it, it'll move. Versus hitting a tree, because if you hit a tree, you're dead. You're not, like, if you hit something, I'm not talking like a small tree. I'm talking like a thick-ass oak tree. Like, say somebody's kind of swerving into you. It's sometimes better to try and clip them and fucking get in a car crash than just fucking mow down a tree.
A lot of you watching tend to go the speed limit regularly, which saves very little time. If your destination is 20 minutes away at 100 kilometers an hour or 60 miles an hour, driving 15 kilometers an hour or 10 miles.
How many viewers do you have that you think have died? Bro, but like, could I go off YouTube viewers, or are you saying TikTok? Because TikTok's, a motherfucker might watch one of my videos, follow me, and then never watch me again. That's like more than half of my followers. If we're going off how many of my 20-ish million TikTok followers follow me that are dead, 100,000 more. A lot. Like, a lot of people. I out of the 20 something million followers that I have, 100 something thousand of them are dead.
Now faster will save less than 3 minutes. But your probability of a deadly crash increases by 60%. So 2 of you may survive next week if you just tone down your speeding. This alone would eliminate the most dangerous activity in your life. Isn't this wild? A close second is drinking alcohol and driving, causing 25% of deadly crashes. In the next week, this will also kill 2 of you. You don't even need to feel drunk, you just have to have consumed enough to slow your reaction time. Even if you still feel completely in control, chances are high that you're not. Aside from being extremely illegal, it's one of the most reckless and dangerous things too many people do regularly. And it's easy to
yeah, because it's that fraction of a second where you're not reacting or braking quick enough.
avoid. Just don't do it, ever. Taking a cab after that work event next week, even if you only had 2 drinks, might save your life. Just because you were distracted while driving, one of you will die next week. Maybe because you were eating or fumbling with the radio, but let's be real, probably because you were looking at your phone. If you drive at 60 kilometers an hour...
I have a breathalyzer, and I tested how many drinks you can have. Or, I mean, it depends on the average person. If I have 2 drinks, I'm at like a 0.05, which is legal limits like 0.08. I would still verge on the edge of I'm not gonna drive. But if I'm at a long dinner, like if I'm out to eat for like 2 hours and I have a beer at the start and a beer in the middle, I drive. But I wouldn't feel anything. But that's also different from mixed drinks. I'm saying like mixed drinks, it's probably 0.05. If I just slam 2 beers and then test myself, I'm probably at a 0.08. Or not 0.08, 0.05.
Just a moment, you've now crossed an entire football field, completely blind. Stop doing this, and you might survive next week. Lastly, we want to have an especially frank word with the 3 of you that will die because you didn't wear a seatbelt. What an incredibly stupid way to die young. And of course, often the victims of crashes are not to blame at all, and many of you watching right now will end up hurting someone else. But you now know how to reduce the chances of this happening massively. 26 of you will die by falling, or more precisely by hitting the ground in the next year, which means 1 of you will die every 2 weeks. You'd think the danger of height was not as big of a deal, but it is. Going up ladders, working on scaffolding or on a roof, and going hiking in nature is normal. But falling from a height of just 2 meters has about the same mechanical energy as a bowling ball dropped from a 7-story building. You probably wouldn't want to be hit by it, and it only gets worse the higher you go. For a fall from 5 meters, the height of a large ladder, the equivalent would be the energy of a bowling ball dropped from a 19-story building. But even just falling over...
I'm not following how that makes any sense. I'm not dying if I jump from 2 meters. That's 6 feet.
that can easily be fatal because your head is all the way at the top of your body. Another surprisingly dangerous thing is water. One of you will drown next week. Being in and around water is fun and doesn't seem to be a big deal, mainly for 3
Wow, dude. How many people have seen me that have drowned?
reasons. You'll underestimate how dangerous a body of water is and be taken by strong currents or riptides. You'll overestimate your swimming abilities. You're most likely a much worse swimmer than you think. Or, also sadly common, you'll go into the water drunk, especially dangerous because you're more reckless and even more likely to be overwhelmed by a cold shock or hypothermia. Harmless situations around water turn deadly so quickly that in the US, drowning is the second most common cause of death by accident for kids, after you
Really?
may have guessed it, car crashes.
Car crashes and then fire.
So if you're going for a swim next week, keep this in mind. Make sure that the water is safe, assume you are at best a mediocre swimmer, and you won't die. Also, for the love of God, be careful on cruise ships. If you go overboard, you have a 60% chance of dying. Let's move on to the thing that will kill the most people.
You have a 60% chance of dying if you jump overboard? Yeah, because they can't get you. You ever see the videos where motherfuckers will, like, dare their friend to jump off in the middle of the water and then they never find him again? I feel like we watched that on stream. It's like the middle of the night and they're like, dude, just jump in the water.
Watching this video. This one is extremely sad and very delicate because sensationalist public discussion can make it worse. It's harming yourself. Statistically, about 10 of you could die this way next week. There's something that you might not be aware of that might save your life. The majority of these deaths happen in crisis situations, usually triggered by traumatic events and extraordinary circumstances that overwhelm people and undermine their coping strategies. Studies show that suicide rarely occurs out of the blue. There are warning signs, and often suicidal thoughts and feelings can be mastered by getting professional help, for example from a crisis intervention center. Most people who survive an attempt don't try again and end up being very glad that they did survive. It was just way too much for them, and they felt desperate.
Yeah, dude, if you are ever going through something, get the help that you need. I mean, I say that all the time. Most people that go through these scenarios do get out of it, but it's also said that I think the average person has averagely 2 or 3 attempts for suicide where they don't kill themselves, and then the 4th are usually successful. So if you're ever going through something or you've attempted in the past and you're still here and you're thinking about it again, please get the help that you need. Genuinely. 988 is their suicide hotline, but you could also reach out to a family member, loved one, you know, friends. You could also go to a therapist, psychiatrist if your insurance and covers it, and they also have free help and stuff like that. And people always say they don't want to talk to 988. I'm pretty sure they have text hotlines as well. So you don't have to, like, talk to somebody on the phone. You're able to, like, type to them as well.
It would be so nice if someone watching this who's in a bad spot decides to get help. You matter, you really do, and the world is better with you in it. Please stay with us. If you currently feel overwhelmed by life, seeking help is not weakness, it's strength. We've put some resources for you in the video description. This also means another thing. If you have someone in your life going through a crisis, withdrawing, expressing hopelessness, or talking about this topic, even jokingly, take it seriously. Show them that they're loved and
Yeah, because some people comedically joke about it, and you can't really read through it because you think they're not serious, but they are.
important. You personally could save a life, maybe next week already. You might never know, but worst case, you've been a true friend. Now for the final thing, and to be honest, this will not save your life next week, but maybe this year. Cancer is sadly a real risk even for your age group and will kill 5 of you next week. The most common being thyroid, breast, and testicular cancer. The author of this video had cancer at the age of 32. If he'd been aware of this risk and went to regular checkups, this could have been entirely avoided. So this is also a personal, heartfelt recommendation. We collected a few resources about screenings and self-checkups in our sources for you. Check them out. At least one type of cancer.
Yeah, you got to check your nuts in the shower for the guys. Sorry. You feel lump? That's what they told me. I'll do it. I haven't done it in a while. You do. You gotta do a little daily checkup. You got a little lump in your nuts.
Melanoma or skin cancer. You might be surprised
Oh, dude, I gotta go to the fucking dermatologist again soon.
how deadly this is, but as a great philosopher said, the sun is...
What do you mean check your nuts? You gotta... bro, I don't like talking about this shit. You gotta make sure your nuts don't have lumps on them, because if they have lumps on them, that's a fucking tumor, and then you have testicular cancer.
The deadly laser.
And then they gotta whack it off.
It's burning your skin with the energy released from trillions of tons of plasma. The solution couldn't be simpler. Use sunscreen. It's been a while or you've been in the water. Cool. Apply it again. About 9 of you will die of melanoma in the next year, so sunscreen might save your life. Okay, let's wrap up. Just by being more aware and modifying your behavior a little bit, you personally could survive next week. Dozens of all of you
What about girls, Joe? We get ball cancer too? No, you don't. You get breast cancer more than men, though.
Hopefully, you'll be able to tell.
Checking right now. Thanks, Joe. Brother, you don't need to tell me that. You don't need to tell me that. You know, we're good if you don't tell me that. I'm just trying to be, you know, health conscious here and saying, hey, guys often get testicular cancer. And you don't have to tell me, you don't got to tell me that.
And if you have people in your life that do or don't do the things we talked about today, please send them this video. It might save their lives too. Life is just the best thing, and we hope to celebrate it together for as long as possible.
All right, well, that was a W video. All right, chat, W stream. Hope you all had fun watching. I had a fun time streaming. We're going to call that there.